Hello, everyone. Now you will hear a short retelling of the movie Fanatic. Enjoy your viewing. Danny went down to the subway and followed a guy in a Jewish hat. In the car, the hooligan got drunk and began to pinch the guy's glasses. Danny trampled his shoes with boots. The guy did not react to this in any way and just went to the nearest station. But the Razorhead is not going to lag behind him. On the street, Danny knocked out the poor man's book from his hands and then smeared it on his face. The angry hooligan beat the young man and demanded that he at least somehow answer. But he did not receive a rebuttal and left the crime scene. A gang of skinheads came to the meeting of the fascists, which was arranged by Curtis Zump and Lena Mobius. That's why I'm a fascist. Only such a state device will satisfy our needs. Lena has a daughter, Carla, to whom Danny immediately looked. He took the floor and said that the greatest danger for society is the Jews, and they need to be rid of them. Danny hates them so much that even the local fascists are struck by the anger of a young neo-Nazi. After all, they do not want the repetition of Nazi Germany. However, Danny wants exactly this. The guy stayed after the meeting, and Lena, just in case, clarified whether he was somehow connected with the FBI or the police, and then asked the question, who would Danny want to kill first? Mancetti, the young man replied, who manages a large investment bank. Danny even planned how to do it. Lena invited a neo-Nazi with friends to their country house, but Curtis is dissatisfied because he renounced anti-Semitism. A 1,000-year Reich has not lasted 10 years. Do you want to go down this path again? On the way back, the gang hit the dark-skinned men, and after the fight ended up behind bars. Carla personally came for Danny and made a pledge for him. Like many Nazis, the girl's father was hiding in Argentina, and now he is in a clinic for mentally ill. First, she asked Danny to hit her, and then they overslept. In the morning, the beaten girl woke Danny up and asked him to leave, but Curtis managed to notice him. Danny is dressing up in a swastika on a t-shirt and pushes the dark-skinned guys. The guy returned home and, among his old things, found a school notebook. Danny is a Jew himself. As a child, during a discussion of the Holy Scripture, he argued with the teacher because he claimed that God is cruel and demands from people the fulfillment of all his wills. Abraham was ready to sacrifice his son Isaac, and even if this did not happen, they forever became broken things. Already then, Danny began to doubt his Jewish identity. There was also Nazi literature and a gun in the box. The sister looks after their sick father. How can you wear it? Linda is outraged. Do you know what it means for your people? This is not my people. And Danny cannot explain his hatred of Jews. For the sake of his father, the guy changed his t-shirt, even though he laughed at the fact that a man does not observe Shabbat. In the evening, a journalist contacted Danny, who writes about the right of radical groups. He wants the young man to share his ideas with him. It turned out that this journalist was Guy Daniels, one of the participants of the fascist meeting. According to the racist, the whites are at the top, the blacks are at the very bottom. Asians, Arabs, and Latin Americans are somewhere in the middle. Judaism is generally a disease. They say that Jews undermine the traditional foundations of life. They have no roots and attachments. Because of this, Jews cannot plow the field and grow wheat, but they can buy and resell it. Mental labor for some reason, with contempt, said Danny. They are also inclined to give girls pleasure, and this is a manifestation of weakness. They are real men, feeding on the earth and the sun. Guy likes the orator's abilities of the interlocutor, but there is one nuance. The journalist has already broken through the information about him and knows that Danny performed the bar mitzvah right. Danny panicked from such a turn and began to claim that all this is a lie. He was slandered, and in general, he will go to court if Guy publishes their conversation. Danny put a gun on the table to be more convincing. But in order for the article not to come out for sure, he put a gun in Guy's mouth. Skinheads arrived at the fascist country house. There was already a crowd of other shaved-headed aggressive guys. One of them, the healthiest, suddenly broke into Danny. The young man was in a hurry to answer, and first, hitting the aggressor in the throat, he walked through his face with his head. The Nazis are playing a military board game, imagining themselves in the place of Hitler. If necessary, they will easily make an explosive for Danny. In the morning, he was taught to shoot from a rifle. Moreover, a caricatured Jewish and dark-skinned family is used as targets. Danny is doing so-so, unlike Drake's sniper.
The guy wants to continue his relationship with Carl. The girl resisted, but in the end invited him to climb into her through the window today. Danny did so. Right at that moment, Carl dressed up as a fascist Curtis. The next day, Danny confessed to Curtis that he intended to strike. The whole gang of Nazis was thrown into a Jewish cafe and began to demand that they be given inauspicious food. After hearing the mockery, the waiter had to call the cook, who armed himself with a stick. Disputes on the topic of religion quickly turned into a fight, and here the neo-Nazis are listening to the judge. He offered them a choice of 30 days in prison or to visit a meeting of people who survived the Holocaust. The skinheads chose the second option. Everyone was afraid of the fool, until one old man began to tell how, during the war, a German sergeant pierced his son with a bayonet right in front of him. Blood was dripping on his face. The soldiers were laughing, and he could not do anything about it. Hearing the story, Danny shuddered. In front of this weakling, his son was being killed, and he did not even throw himself at the sergeant, did not squeeze his eyes out. It is better to die than to be like this old man. He is worse than a dead man. The woman asked Danny how he would act. A man who does not know what suffering is, raised in this stupid, prosperous country, and who presents himself as a hero. They did nothing, just as you would have done nothing. Danny decided that these people would not learn anything and left the meeting. His friends showed him an explosive device. After that, the skinheads broke into the synagogue and began to destroy it. Danny set up a bomb right under the chair. But at the same time, he felt uncomfortable when his comrades took a scroll with the Holy Scripture. He demanded not to touch the paper. But instead, the Nazis began to tear and trample the Holy Scripture. His comrades were surprised by his behavior, and Drake seemed to have suspected something. When everyone left, upset Danny, holding back tears, picked up and turned the scroll. From the news, the skinheads learned that their bomb had gone out of order 13 minutes before the explosion. Apparently, God helped the Jews again. The story of the old man does not come out of Danny's head. In the role of a killer sergeant, he imagined himself. It turned out that Danny took the scroll, glued it, and cleaned it thoroughly. In addition, he tied a satellite to the katana, which the Jews used during prayers. The skinhead began to throw zigs and read the Torah at the same time. A journalist called him Guy. He suspects that it was Danny who planted the bomb. The defiant Drake suddenly offered Danny to kill the Jew. He brought him to the building where Mancetti is speaking today, about which Danny spoke at the meeting of the Nazis. They waited until the evening. Drake ordered the guy to lie on his stomach and aim. He himself admitted that he had already killed 4. Danny took Mancetti on sight, but missed. Drake is sure that Danny did it on purpose, and then noticed a tallit under the t-shirt. During the fight, Danny shot the scoundrel and ran away. Memories flowed again. As a child, he did not like the fact that the Jews only do what they endure and sacrifice themselves. In God, he sees a madman whom he does not intend to worship. In the end, Danny ran away from the lesson. The Nazis are going to promote their ideology to the masses, give lectures, including to the dark-skinned and liberals. And Danny will play an important role in this. The guy's excitement broke out, and the absolutely normal girl Carly immediately wanted to kiss him. They overslept, and while Danny was in the shower, Carly found a stolen scroll. The young man demanded that she get dressed. You can't be naked in front of the Holy Scripture. Carly found out that Danny knew the Hebrew. She also wants to teach him, supposedly in order to better recognize her enemy, and Danny agreed to teach her. Danny began to teach anti-Semitism and does it very passionately. Danny is also responsible for fundraising. One of the potential patrons claims that the issue of Jews is no longer relevant. The main thing is the market and money. The bomber promises that next time, his bomb will definitely work as it should. Danny paid attention to the Jewish family and followed her. He again saw himself as a German sergeant. Danny went to the Jewish literature store and met his friend Shlomo there. He is going to become a rabbi, and this summer he will marry their classmate Miriam. Danny was invited to come and celebrate the Jewish New Year, and he didn't even complain about his current views. The test of the bomb was successful. Carly, meanwhile, is trying to understand Judaism, and she concluded that this religion is even stranger than Christianity. And also, Danny talks so much about Jews as if he is a Jew himself. Hitler and Goebbels also constantly talked about them, justifies the young man. Danny took advantage of the invitation, and in the synagogue, he met another classmate of Abby. He immediately called him an anti-Semite and a fascist. He has evidence that Danny is a Jewish Nazi. The dispute between them almost turned into a fight. On the street, Miriam suddenly asked Danny to tell about Lina Mebius. It turns out that Miriam works in the prosecutor's office, and half of the members of the fascist cell are informants. Another meeting was attended by a bunch of right-wing financiers. Apparently, Danny was already disappointed in this organization. Therefore, the speech began with a Jewish prayer. He continued with his arguments that Jews should be loved. This will only make them worse, because hatred will harden them. The only way to once and for all exterminate this insidious people is to open his arms. Therefore, let's say Shema Israel Lina is furious. She doesn't want Danny to work with them anymore. Here on TV, they saw a report on the murder of Mansetti. He was shot in the head 7 times. Lina and Curtis think that this is Danny's doing, and he believes that he was set up by the scoundrel Drake. The same version is adhered to by E-Guy for what he got in the face. Miriam warned Danny that Lina turned him in as a cop, saying that it was he who offered to kill Mansetti at the meeting. Does he really want to kill Jews? Wants to kill her? Miriam suggested, adhering to the version that Danny deliberately infiltrated the cell to expose the fascists. The girl gave a dictaphone and asked to record how Lina Mobius asks him to commit some act of violence. Miriam wants to save her friend. Carla is seriously fond of Judaism and offered to celebrate Yom Kippur with her. Tomorrow in the synagogue, the prayer was to be read by the groom Miriam, and Danny asked to replace him because this evening he will lay a bomb there. In the newspaper, Danny was called a Jewish Nazi and accused of murdering Mansetti. Lina gave an interview on this occasion, and the father from the TV learned about his son's terrible things. Danny came to the synagogue and, to his surprise, found Carla there. He begs the girl to leave, but she asks not to distract her from the prayer. Danny again introduced himself as a Nazi sergeant, but this time he was a Jew who did not stand still and attack the enemy. The guy went out to read the prayer. One man recognized him and rushed to call the police. 5 minutes before the explosion, when Danny approached his friends and confessed that he had laid a bomb, they need to take everyone out as soon as possible. People in panic left the room. The last one, Carla, came out, and Danny decided to stay. The guy was illuminated by a bright flash. He was at school again and went up the stairs. On each floor, he is met by a teacher and asks Danny to stop. Does he not know that there is no one up there?